Tonight, keeping older Queenslanders in their homes for longer. Once-in-a-generation aged care reforms, but they come at a cost. Heavy hearts as police mourn a veteran, Senior Sergeant Brendan Wiblin, killed on a memorial ride for fallen officers. Stephen Miles in the hot seat for what could be the final time as Premier. Parliament's last muck-up day before we vote. Righting a terrible wrong. Medals stripped from soldiers over war crimes in Afghanistan. Brisbane's new look international airport. $5 billion to transform the terminal from check-in to the boarding gate. And budget-friendly fun for Queensland families. Busting boredom but not the bank over these school holidays.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Max Futcher.
Good evening. It will come as a relief to Australian families struggling with the trauma and anxiety of aged care. Canberra is delivering a $6 billion promise to change the sector forever. It is historic, aimed at keeping our elderly safe and, where possible, in their homes.
3.5 years after a Royal Commission exposed a system of neglect, violence and abuse.
Today we are putting the care back into aged care.
Securing bipartisan support to reinvent aged care funding so older Australians can remain at home longer. A $5.6 billion package, most on a new supported home scheme, cutting waiting times for packages from 12 to 3 months and faster access to essentials like wheelchairs and walkers. All clinical care paid by government, participants making means-tested contributions for additional care like gardening, cleaning, showering and dressing.
Australians will get the support they need and make a reasonable contribution according to their means.
No fee increases for those already in care, but for new entrants, means-tested daily fees indexed every 6 months. Maximum refundable accommodation deposits climbing to $750,000, with a new 2% levy deducted for up to 5 years going to the provider, cutting inheritances by up to $75,000.
This is about better care for more people in a more sustainable way.
That's the policy. The politics, the coalition's making clear it is supporting the package, but it's not sharing ownership.
This is the government's bill, this is the government's reform.
Residential home operators welcoming funding certainty.
We're over the moon. We'll give investors more confidence to start investing. We need another 200,000 beds over the next 20 years. We're not building a single one at the moment.
Hoping an age-old problem will soon be fixed. And it isn't quite fixed yet. The opposition will demand the legislation goes to a Senate committee for public input. That will delay a final vote for at least a couple of months. And it didn't exactly get unanimous support in the coalition party room this morning, knowing the extra contributions won't exactly thrill many of the older support base. That's why the coalition does want this done, but wants it done by Labor. Max.
Mark Riley in Canberra. The Queensland Police family is in mourning tonight after a veteran Gold Coast officer was killed while on a memorial ride for fallen colleagues. Senior Sergeant Brendan Wiblin is being remembered for his integrity, dedication and leadership during his 28 years of service.
Hats off, heads bowed, officers mourning one of their own.
It's raw, it's personal.
A memorial ride honouring colleagues killed in the line of duty, now cruelly, tragically, one rider short.
Our hearts are extraordinarily heavy as a Blue family.
Senior Sergeant Brendan Wiblin was involved in the wall-to-wall ride for several years, but while trying to overtake another rider, his bike crashed down an embankment near Glen Innes, south of the border. He died at the scene.
We're taking it hard, there's no doubt about it.
The 58-year-old was a veteran of the force, a senior sergeant, a district officer, a branch official for the police union.
He spent almost 30 years protecting people of Queensland. It's a tragedy that he's lost his life.
Respected for his integrity, professionalism and dedication, loved for his quick wit and blunt honesty.
This was a highly motivated driver who was intent on causing harm.
Flags have been flying at half-mast at police stations across the Gold Coast, and many staff have been rocked by this loss. Brendan Wiblin was extremely popular among the region's 1,100 officers who are now being offered support.
Some people in our community are really hurting today.
The victim's family has urged the National Remembrance Ride to continue with another hero to honour. Garth Burley, 7 News.
If early polling is to be believed, Stephen Miles stood up in Parliament today for the last time as the state's leader. The Premier and opposition leader traded blows on the final sitting day before October 26, which is billing as the most significant election in a decade. Both are tonight preparing to hit the road for the campaign.
They were warned.
I know it is the last day of school, but I don't want this to turn into muck-up day.
Jared Blay angling for a fight.
He is just not up to the job of leading Queensland.
I have spent...
Order, members.
...the last 9 months as Queensland's Premier, listening to Queenslanders and delivering for them.
After more than 9 years of a Labor government, the opposition leader is eyeing off the top job.
Queenslanders know that this government has promised and failed to deliver.
As polling numbers haunt Stephen Miles.
He's the great invisible man
Member for
of
Currumbin.
Queensland politics. He doesn't want them to know about his secret plans or his plans to legislate control of women's bodies.
I take personal offence at that horrible comment. And I ask for it to be withdrawn.
I withdraw.
The LNP argues time is up on a third-term Labor government as Stephen Miles tries to rally his troops.
Our plan is hot to go.
9 MPs, including 5 from Labor, have called it time and won't be recontesting the next election.
If Queenslanders vote for change, the LNP is ready to serve.
You're just the warmed-up
Through the
leftovers
chair.
of a government
Through
they
the chair,
rejected
Premier.
10 years ago.
As they serve up the pre-election sledges. Marlena Wapp, 7 News.
The Defence Minister has stripped Army officers of their medals at the end of an investigation into Afghanistan war crimes. Tonight, veterans are furious at the decision and the timing, 3 days after the Royal Commission into Defence Suicide report was handed down.
26,000 Australians served in Afghanistan, most with honour and dignity.
Craig, no! Craig, stop!
But the alleged actions of a handful will forever stain their reputation.
This will always be a matter of national shame.
4 years after the Brereton War Crimes Inquiry found credible information, 25 SAS personnel unlawfully killed 39 Afghans. Up to 10 current and former soldiers have had their Distinguished Service Medals stripped.
Our soldiers are capable of great courage and bravery under fire. It has also shown that we can do great wrong on the battlefield.
But those punished aren't the ones who pulled the trigger. Accountability falling to their commanders.
It's an outrageous decision on the basis of allegations yet to be proven in a due process.
The timing of that decision also under fire, just 3 days after the Royal Commission into Defence Suicide was handed down.
How insensitive. How bloody insensitive.
Questions too about why former Chief of Defence Angus Campbell, who served as Middle East Commander, will keep his Distinguished Service Cross.
I believe that our troops were let down by a lack of moral courage that went up the chain of command.
So far, only one charge has come from the War Crimes Inquiry, but the government expects more prosecutions will follow, but warns they'll be slow, worked up over the next decade.
The long shadow of Afghanistan will continue to shape the context for our army for some years to come.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
Jurors are tonight deciding the fate of a Gold Coast tradie accused of helping his boss murder his ex-wife, Kelly Wilkinson. Rachel Baxter, the defence and prosecution delivered their closing arguments today.
Good evening, Max. That's right. Bradley Bell's barrister used his closing arguments to paint a picture of the accused not as a cold-blooded killer, but as a scared kid that has made stupid decisions and that has lied. The prosecution's evidence comes down to a formal interview where Bell said he knew Brian Earl Johnston wanted to kill Kelly. He now says that that was not true. That knowledge would make him culpable to murder. Bell's barrister, Edwin Whitten, said today Bradley told lies because he wanted to help police pin Johnston and had no idea he was confessing to murder. Crown Prosecutor David Nardone told the jury an innocent man doesn't lie. They tell the truth from the beginning, calling Bell a self-interested manipulator of information. Now, the jury has begun its deliberations. That will continue into tomorrow. They will need to decide whether Mr. Bell is innocent, whether he is guilty or whether he can have his charge downgraded to manslaughter, which is now an option as well. But Max, I think it is looking likely that we will have a verdict by tomorrow.
Rachel Baxter at Supreme Court tonight. Families of the deadly Hunter Valley wedding bus crash victims have launched a class action against Transport New South Wales. The department is accused of failing to maintain road safety standards where the vehicle tipped. Operator Link Bus Lines is expected to be added to the claim after employing driver Brett Button with no background checks despite his opioid addiction. The lawsuit was organised by Adam Bray, whose son Zach died.
They've contributed massively to the death of my son and none of his beautiful friends.
Brett Button will serve at least 24 years behind bars. Until yesterday, they'd never actually met, but Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have shaken hands twice in 2 days. After that rollercoaster debate, they marked the anniversary of 9/11 together.
23 years on, the horror of 9/11.
My uncle, firefighter Jimmy Richards,
prompting reflection and at least a brief reprieve in political hostilities. Rivals with a handshake and small talk just hours after their brutal debate stage face-off.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
A day on, the result was still being spun and the fact-checking continued.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Wrong, according to the city.
It is disappointing that some of the narrative surrounding our city has been skewed by misinformation.
And this is so outrageous and outlandish.
Taylor Swift's election arrival has already hit hard.
Taylor Swift endorsed Madam VP Kamala Harris.
More than 300,000 voters clicked her link to register to vote. The signature friendship bracelet, Harris merchandise, also selling out. The Vice President says she's ready for round two. Donald Trump, well, he's not so keen. And that's despite key allies urging the former president to pull the gloves back on and this time not let Harris under his skin. 67 million Americans watched this title fight in an election race that's going to come down to just a handful of voters in a handful of states. In Pennsylvania, David Woywood, 7 News.
The boss of Channel 9, Mike Sneesby, has stepped down after a string of controversies. A report into allegations of sexual harassment and bullying in Nine's newsrooms is still weeks away.
Not quite 9 lives, but Nine's CEO survived a series of scandals until today.
They get turned over pretty quickly if things just go a little bit pear-shaped, and they certainly did for him.
It started with a May mutiny, staff livid over the botched dismissal of former news boss Darren Wick.
What have you got to say to the women who've made allegations against you?
Prompting an investigation into his behaviour, payout and a company cover-up of both.
You have to be the leader in an organisation and you have to take accountability.
Don't.
A month later, Nine's chairman knocked over a journalist, then fell on his sword.
You've just assaulted me.
The pain spread to Paris, publishing staff striking on the eve of the Olympics after 200 of their colleagues were laid off.
Is it inappropriate this staying in a boutique hotel when you've just sacked staff?
There were calls then for Mike Sneesby to pass the torch.
The board would have been very conscious of just the never-ending negative media coverage.
Sneesby announcing his resignation this morning, a day after staff were told the report into bullying and harassment will be handed down within weeks. The announcement comes as Nine's share price hits a 3.5-year low. It's down 57% on Sneesby's watch. Nine's market value has nosedived by more than a third since the start of the year, with net profit slashed by almost a quarter.
It's a huge challenge for the incoming CEO. They're going to have to essentially turn around a freight train.
Amelia Brace, 7 News.
Star Entertainment is no closer to solving its financial struggles, telling the ASX it hasn't locked in a rescue plan. In a new update, the cash-strapped company says it remains in talks with governments, regulators and lenders. The casino operator hasn't been able to finalise its annual results. Trading in its shares remains suspended. It's the most significant upgrade to Brisbane Airport's international terminal since it opened. And tonight, for the first time, we can show you what it will look like. The $5 billion revamp has begun and is due to finish before the 2032 Olympics, when the tourism economy is expected to double.
Designed to improve the traveller experience. Self-serve check-in and bag drop, duty-free to double in size, new retail stores and restaurants. But the biggest change coming to Brisbane's international terminal, a dramatic overhaul to security screening.
The largest deployment of Rapiscan security screening equipment into an airport in Southeast Asia.
Rapiscan technology screens bags without needing to remove electronics. Security and passport control will be brought up to the same level as check-in to fast-track the process. All part of a $5 billion transformation today shared with the world's leading airlines.
Huge opportunity to attract more airlines, and the Olympic and Paralympic Games are obviously a platform we can use to leverage.
A promise to be ready 5 years before the 2032 Games, when the traveller spend is expected to almost double.
International visitor numbers are about 75% recovered and growing.
Delta Airlines capitalising on US demand with a direct 11-hour Brisbane to LA flight starting December 4.
The number one market for that demand is Los Angeles to Brisbane.
Brisbane Airport says the staggered upgrades means travellers won't need to arrive here any earlier than normal. There will be disruptions inside the terminal though, with construction already underway on the changing layout. These new additions are a sign of what's to come. Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
Now for a look at the weather, and Tony, what's the latest on today's storms?
Max, for now, it's not looking too nasty out there. Mostly showers setting in with the odd rumble of thunder as well. The first main line of storms has now cleared offshore from the Gold Coast and Brisbane and is starting to approach the Sunshine Coast this evening. A bit of patchy shower activity building inland behind it, and that should likely last through the next few hours. A windy and cooler tomorrow. Max, I'll be back soon with the forecast.
Thanks, Tony. A busy bridge in Brisbane's west to close for the school holidays. What it means for drivers navigating the imminent shutdown. New research shines a light on the impact a mother's diet has on her baby's health. A group hug with the king. How the New Zealand rugby team scored a royal scrum. And love is in the air at QPAC. The curtains open to the stage adaptation of a Trent Dalton classic.
With just one click, George's life was ruined.
I just can't believe it actually happened to me. Within 24 hours, I'd lost everything.
We reveal the new scam sweeping Queensland. Millions drained from victims' accounts.
Experiencing inquiries of over 200 a week.
Your identity stolen without even knowing. On 7 News, coming up.
If you live in Brisbane's west, think twice before you hit the roads these school holidays. The Walter Taylor Bridge will close tomorrow night and it's expected to cause traffic chaos.
This was the last time the Walter Taylor Bridge was closed in its entirety, January 1993.
1993, we took the timber deck out and replaced it with reinforced concrete.
Essential maintenance begins again at 9 p.m. on Friday. No traffic able to cross until the end of the month as the road is ripped up and relayed, joints replaced, and this resin sets.
That's why we need no vehicles on the bridge, no vibration.
35,000 vehicles a day use the bridge, so I think there is traffic chaos ahead for residents.
A peak hour drive from Graceville to Indooroopilly that used to take 6 to 12 minutes will take up to 45 via 17-mile rocks, pushing even more traffic across the Centenary Bridge. If you go via the city, it will take up to 1 hour. Bus services will be affected and there are minor unrelated timetable changes for trains from September 21, while the adjacent pedestrian bridge remains open.
There is no good time, but we believe this is the best time of year for this.
With 3 rotating crews working on the bridge 24 hours a day, residents will be in for restless nights as well, with the first weekend expected to be the worst. 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. to be the noisiest hours.
Well, the majority of the noisy works we'll try and do in those times because we know sound travels down the river.
The bridge will be closed until September 30. If everything goes to plan, it could open earlier. Rosanna Kingson, 7 News.
As the weather warms up and Queenslanders hit the water over the school holidays, boaties are being reminded police will be out in force. 3 times the usual number of marine safety officers will be patrolling to catch lawbreakers. There's a particular focus on making sure you have the right equipment on board.
Out of the 64 fatalities in Queensland waterways in the last 5 years, only 5 of those people have been wearing life jackets.
Kids under 12 need to wear life jackets on smaller vessels. It was an obvious breach of royal protocols, but King Charles didn't seem to mind. Kiwi rugby players pulled him into a group hug during a reception at Buckingham Palace, much to his delight. The New Zealand Black Ferns did ask his permission first. The monarch laughed it off, saying it felt like he'd been flattened by a scrum. School holidays are just around the corner. Tonight, a 7 News special for Queensland parents, how to keep the kids busy without breaking the bank. All the best activities on a budget. Don't miss that story, coming up soon. Plus, the food's most likely to lead to heart problems in newborns. We have crucial new research on diets for pregnant women. Police catch up with an opportunistic thief who took off in a golf buggy on Brisbane's Bayside. Rockstar rescue. Bon Jovi praised for saving a woman's life. How it unfolded next. And is it a true likeness? The tribute to the late Queen that's turning heads. A woman has been charged with stealing a golf buggy on Brisbane's Bayside. Police claim this is her walking a dog through Redland Bay Golf Course before taking off with the cart. After a week on the run, officers arrested her at a bus stop yesterday. The 27-year-old will face court next month, accused of theft and trespass. The buggy was found at Victoria Point and returned to the club. There are calls for an inquiry into the handling of one of Australia's most baffling unsolved mysteries. 10 years ago today, William Tyrrell vanished from outside his foster grandmother's home on the New South Wales mid-north coast. Former lead detective Gary Jubilant is calling out investigators who've advanced the theory that the boy died falling from a balcony and his foster mother panicked.
I investigated homicide for over 20 years. I'd never stood up and said, I know who's done this.
Final hearings of the coronial inquest into William Tyrrell's disappearance begin in November. There's long been an emphasis on pregnancy and diet. What a mum eats, baby does too. But tonight, there's new evidence that fatty foods can start lifelong heart problems for babies while they're still in the womb.
It's naturally a time of high excitement and sometimes high anxiety, and now a natural diet has never been more important.
It's about the diet that's being consumed. So it's the high-fat, high-sugar diet that has been associated with these changes in markers in the heart.
Australian scientists analysed samples from the fetuses of pregnant baboons. Some were fed high-fat, high-energy foods as part of a research project in the US. Others had a controlled diet. They found the babies of the unhealthy group had lower than normal levels of a critical thyroid hormone, which disrupts cardiac development.
It really does negatively impact the developing heart, and it can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease in later life.
The diet also increased the chance of the baby becoming insulin resistant, potentially triggering diabetes as an adult. What's worse, the heart can't repair itself after birth, so even if the child adopts a healthy lifestyle, the damage has already been done.
This research really supports the fact that a healthy diet for women before they get pregnant and during pregnancy is important.
Researchers stress, though, this isn't about instilling fear, rather encouraging everything in moderation, with mothers allowed to enjoy the occasional treat. Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Jon Bon Jovi has prevented a tragedy, persuading a woman to step down off a ledge in Nashville. In a case of right place, right time, the rock legend had been filming a music video nearby when he and his assistant noticed the woman about to jump off a bridge. The singer coaxed her back over the railing and gave her a hug. Police have praised him for his actions. There's growing controversy tonight over a bronze statue of the late Queen Elizabeth unveiled to commemorate the second anniversary of her death. Critics say it's an insult to the longest-serving monarch, with comparisons to the movie character Mrs. Doubtfire.
In Northern Ireland's Antrim Castle Gardens, bemused locals are doing double takes.
I think it does bear a slight resemblance. I mean, I think it could be a better resemblance.
Visitors say Her Majesty's latest statue is oddly small, yet somehow beefy.
I think the size is what struck me as, is it accurate or not?
They complimented the corgis, but the harshest critics say this Queen Elizabeth resembles Robin Williams' classic film character, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match.
Commendations for the late Prince Philip's stooped likeness. Far better than this previous effort, which scared children and was removed. Cristiano Ronaldo's bust had an entire makeover. Tennis legend Andy Murray lost for words at his terracotta warrior. Lucille Ball fans were horrified at this attempt, and the world gasped at Kate Moss, Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, and Melania Trump. So bad it was torched, but replaced with a fireproof version. By comparison, the Queen's controversial effigy is a winner. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Ahead, busting school holiday boredom, your ultimate guide to keeping the kids busy without breaking the bank. Double trouble for a clumsy thief, how he was finally brought to justice. Organisers make a huge call on the future of the Big Red Bash. And the wedding-crashing cop who ended up front and centre at a Yeppoon reception. An alleged thief has been taken into custody after a citizen's arrest. The suspect was confronted by two men in Sydney last night, but while they waited for police, he took off through a backyard and ended up in its pool twice. As he fumbled, the residents closed in.
We got him. The guy that's been stealing out of your garages.
Or use that still, just remember, Guildford's not the way to go.
Charges have been laid and bail refused. The world's most remote music festival, the Big Red Bash in outback Queensland, has been canned for next year. The iconic event, which drew more than 7,500 festival goers to Birdsville in July, is famous for its attempts to break the Nutbush record. Organisers say they need a break to reset and recharge after a tough few years staging the logistically challenging project. We are assured it'll return in 2026. School holidays are on our doorstep and there'll be parents racking their brains on how to keep the kids busy. Tonight, 7 News has your comprehensive list of boredom busters that won't break the bank.
From arts and crafts to the great outdoors, everyone has their own idea of school holiday fun. What are you going to do?
Chill at home. Going to Tasmania for my birthday.
But for those staying in Queensland and on a budget, Brisbane City Council has more than 450 free and affordable activities on its website, including abseiling, galaxy exploring, or love letter and badge making at the Brisbane Museum.
The kids are kept occupied and inspired.
For the prehistoric fans, more than 30 lifelike dinosaurs will roar into Kalinga Park.
Anybody that wants to learn about dinosaurs are going to have a great time.
But the Dino Fest experience doesn't come cheap. Tickets are around $25 per child. Why not let the kids help build your spring herb garden at Logan Central Plaza, or discover the fascinating world of bees by making honey pots or lip balms at Australia Fair on the Gold Coast?
While there is an abundance of activities across the southeast, the advice to parents is don't feel pressured to keep your kids constantly entertained. Sometimes boredom can be a good thing.
Keeping them off the phones, keeping them off computers. Holidays is about refresh, disconnecting.
Creating holiday harmony for the whole family. Garth Burley, 7 News.
A needle-free vaccine targeting a dangerous virus will be trialled in the southeast. The University of Sunshine Coast is looking at using patches to guard against bird flu. Researchers are calling for participants for an 18-month clinical study.
What we're hoping to see is that it is as tolerable, it is as safe, and that the immune response is as good, if not better, than maybe a conventional vaccine.
Only one case of avian influenza has been reported in Australia this year, but it is highly contagious. The technology could prove critical as a rapid pandemic response. Well, no bride or groom wants police rocking up at their wedding reception, unless it's like this. A pocket dial to 000 led officers to a function near Yeppoon. Matthew Whitehead thought he was responding to a noise complaint. Instead, he turned the decibels right up.
Don't stop me now. Gotta take a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. Everybody have a good time. Yeah, give me a go.
A good time, a ball, and an unforgettable false alarm. It's the simple online mistake costing Queenslanders a hefty price. Tonight, how to avoid the hacker's trap to keep your data safe. That story is just ahead on 7 News. But it's sport time now. And Alissa, the Cowboys' opponents, they've paid a hefty price.
Yeah, they won't be at their best. Max, hello everyone. The Knights lose a rep star, while the locals will be inspired by one. The Herculean effort ahead of their sudden death semi. Plus, the Lions inflicting pain. Will they or won't they play their injured defender against the Giants? The Cowboys will be facing a Knights side far from their best in Saturday's semi-final showdown in Townsville. That's where we find Seven's league reporter Mitch Crone. Mitch, Origin centre Bradman Best has been ruled out.
Alissa, it's a coup for the Cowboys, but a blue blow for the Knights, who touched down here in Townsville just over an hour ago on a direct chartered flight out of Newcastle. Now, that was delayed by 90 minutes, and it wasn't the only reason why Adam O'Brien and his team were in no mood to talk. Bradman, who didn't travel north, has been crucial to the Knights' late season charge, but has succumbed to a recurring hamstring injury. Back rower Dylan Lucas is expected to replace him in the centres, but right now the Knights would be wishing that Best was as resilient as ex-Cowboys captain Jason Taumalolo, who's playing through all sorts of pain. He's no longer their captain, but Taumalolo doesn't need a title to lead.
When you play for something bigger than yourself, you always tend to put the team first above anything else.
And JT13's done that in a big way. Not only is his left knee living on borrowed time, the premiership winning prop's yet to undergo surgery on a broken cheekbone suffered in July.
Massive for the team's mindset. Look what this bloke's doing for the team, for us.
Tom Dearden always say around the club is some can, some can't, and luckily for me, I can play through it.
He did after a month off.
I think a lot of coaches would love to give everyone a couple of weeks off, during the year.
I have a pretty good high pain tolerance, so and I earn my rest when the year is done.
Jason's confident that won't be anytime soon. The 273-game veteran sees similarities in this year's Cowboys to the team he saluted with in 2015 and the one he led to a prelim in 2022.
The talent's there, the hard work, they've all ticked off, and I guess it's all a matter of putting it together.
As long as we start with that intensity that we bring last week, we'll go a long way to getting us to win.
Part of that premiership, injured hooker Jake Granville's now part of the Cowboys and Capes hospital program, but it's his teammates' superpowers giving him confidence.
The middle-aged guys in there have really come on as leaders and bringing that next crop through. So just that balance and strike across the field.
In Townsville, Mitch Crone, 7 News.
In the other knockout clash, one of the game's biggest stars will be rolled out of the garage, but not firing on all cylinders. After 3 years in the finals wilderness, Manly faced the Bulldogs Sunday, with Tommy Turbo still nursing that injured shoulder.
Just in time for the finals, the Sea Eagles are turbocharged.
Everyone starts the year wanting to play finals footy, and now that we're here, it's very exciting.
Manly fans held their breaths when Tom Trbojevic was forced from the field with a shoulder injury, but he's not exactly fully fit. He won't have contact until game day.
Luckily, they have some painkilling injections that make things go away, so we'll be fine. Look, you get adrenaline when you play footy, so I'm sure we'll be able to get through the 80 minutes and then we'll deal with the pain afterwards.
In 229 games in the NRL, finally, Luke Brooks will get his first taste of finals footy.
Started my career
probably wouldn't have believed it, but yeah, we're here now, and yeah, glad I'm playing some finals.
After 12 seasons in the NRL, he's determined not to waste the opportunity.
Yeah, I want to make the most of it. It's taken this long to get here, so who knows when I'll be back. So we've got an opportunity to do something.
Jaleesa Rapps, 7 News.
Chris Fagan's rolled the dice, naming Jack Payne for Saturday's sudden death semi against the Giants, but the Lions are taking insurance to Sydney. Defender Dara Joyce will be on the plane as an emergency, but a club favourite's been tipped to tackle the Coleman medalist. High fives from Lachie Neale. Their defensive hulk out of the brace and running, but Payne won't be 100%.
You need to be over 90%. Most players hover around that most weeks. I don't know too many blokes that go onto the field that are 100%, especially this time of year. They've all got something going on.
The Giants just one of 2 teams to beat them since June.
I felt like we'd moved away from that sort of walking on thin ice, you might as well dance thing. I felt like in the Collingwood game and the Giants game, we started to become too aware of where we were on the ladder.
While the Lions' dancing shoes are back on, GWS will be cutting a new rug, reinventing themselves privately.
Can we just have no cameras on this next drill, please? Yep.
Sure, mate. Trying a few things that I didn't really want to make sure, didn't get out. I'm not going to tell you what they were either.
And how timely is this? The AFL Premiership Cup Tour touching down in Brisbane. Seven's Luke Hodge has lifted it 4 times. If Payne isn't right, the defensive general knows how to stop Coleman medalist Jesse Hogan.
I'll probably go with a senior guy in Ryan Lester. He's an underdog. He's been like that his whole career. He's the heart and soul of football club when it comes with standards and respect and that kind of stuff. That's what they all look towards.
Having kept Carlton virtually goalless in a half of footy is an outstanding defensive effort particularly, but we know they're a good team.
Kingsley also confirmed Toby Bedford's calf is okay and likely to play on Lachie Neale. The Cats await the winner in an MCG prelim. He admits it's surreal, but Suns young gun Mac Andrew is already focused on repaying the biggest deal in Australian football history, 12 to 14 million over the next 10 years. That's what the 20-year-old, who stars at either end of the field, stands to collect if the multi-layered contract extension's seen out in full.
Guys like Colo, Witter, Took, they've had to carry us on their backs for a long time, so it's only right that we even out that load and hold our weight, and I think we really started to do that this year.
The deal's initially for 6 years with the trigger for an extra 4 plus bonuses. Queensland cricket are sweating on the fitness of Xavier Bartlett after Australia's opening T20 win over England in Southampton. Matthew Short replaced Jake Fraser-McGurk at the top of the order, making 41 runs off 26 balls. Enter Travis Head, belting 30 off 1 over on his way to 59. Defending 179, Tim David took a spectacular grab.
Oh my goodness me, what an extraordinary catch. He had to make up so much ground.
Bartlett left the field with a side strain, but the Aussies were still far too strong. 28-run winners. Max, that's sport.
Thanks, Alissa. Taking a look at finance now, the local share market soared to an 8-day high, adding 87 points. Mineral stocks proved a key player. Pilbara soared by 8%. Buy now, pay later company Zip also rose. $1 Australian is currently buying 66.73 US cents. After Netflix and Logie's success, Boy Swallows Universe author Trent Dalton is delivering his latest love letter to Brisbane. Love Stories opens a Q-Pack tomorrow, bringing local tales that feature in his hit book to the stage.
Queensland love law taking centre stage.
Everybody's got a story.
And every story needs an author.
The most surreal and privileged and incredibly touching experience.
Trent Dalton made King George Square his own. Everyday tales of romance and heartbreak taken down on his typewriter.
Constantly reminding people that these are real Brisbane love stories. So there's about 50 stories that swirl through this play.
Tethered together by a husband and wife, loosely inspired by Trent and his wife Fiona.
Semicolon, Confessions of a Melodramatic Man-Child.
Well, was that pretty accurate, was it?
Yeah, it's a version of what could happen in our house at any particular time. There's a sense of responsibility and privilege in doing that and in telling
Trent and Fiona's story.
Working on these tiny little scenes that have to do a lot in very short amount of time.
The small stage, a big change from the silver screen. Dalton's Netflix show, Boy Swallows Universe, was the love of the Logies. The stage show has goals of its own when it opens tomorrow.
We're making a work that encourages people to love better.
It's clearly working, adding a new chapter last night with a preview proposal right there on the stage. And of course, she said yes. Ed Balm, 7 News.
A simple online mistake costing Queenslanders big. Just ahead, how to keep your data safe and avoid the hackers' trap.
And the storms have almost cleared with a change on the way tomorrow. The forecast coming up next.
Cyber experts warn hackers are increasingly using social media to trap Australians in elaborate scams. With tech companies providing little support, victims are being forced to find digital bodyguards to protect their savings and identities.
George Frillingoss is used to knocking down pins. But it was a digital strike that left the 10-pin bowling champion reeling.
I just can't believe it actually happened to me. Within 24 hours, I'd lost everything.
After opening an online attachment sent to him, he was locked out of his email and social media accounts. The foreign hackers also used his credit card.
I just felt helpless. I really felt helpless.
George called in a private cybersecurity business and successfully reclaimed his accounts.
We're experiencing inquiries of over 200 a week.
The advice is to add two-factor authentication, be aware of phishing emails and texts, and have strong password management.
We see over and over again that the client uses one password for everything. The online help you get from these platforms is very weak.
This is Meta's head office, the parent company of Facebook. They are notoriously difficult to contact, and today a spokesperson told us they had nothing to say. And if your sensitive information is sold on the dark web,
it will typically take about 18 months to clear somebody's name. Once they become a victim of identity theft.
So sneaky and so deceitful, and they just fly under the radar.
Amy Clements, 7 News.
Weather now, and Tony, the weather radar came to life today.
Yes, it has, Max. A few showers and weak storms affecting the southeast, though nothing too nasty so far. This was the view over the Story Bridge as the worst of it moved through this afternoon. As we move to the radar, the leading line of showers and weak storms has now cleared away from the Gold Coast and Brisbane and is closing in on the Sunshine Coast this evening. Some weaker showers in behind it, which should move across coastal areas over the next few hours. Before the storms, it was a warm one. Ipswich and Greenbank pushing up to 29 degrees. Zooming out, the activity in the southeast has been on the leading edge of a band of unstable weather lying across southern inland parts of Queensland. Patchy rain and no warnings have been issued. Tomorrow, the trough triggering those storms moves further north. We'll see a few showers in its wake here and also some strong winds and a significant drop in temperatures. Around the capitals, showers for Melbourne and Hobart tomorrow. Sydney dry on 19 degrees. Back to northern Queensland, patchy cloud on the coast, a possible shower around Mackay, and Mount Isa set to cool down a little bit, sunshine and back to 31 degrees. Over southern districts, high fire dangers remain under clear skies inland, and the storms ease back to a couple of showers along the coast and ranges as strong winds start to build. Toowoomba and Stanthorpe almost chilly on 20 degrees. In the southeast, also a few showers to start the day. They will ease back later. Winds bumping up around 60 or 70 k's an hour on the coast. They'll bring a much cooler day as well, just 21 degrees at Sandgate with Ferny Grove, not much warmer on 22. Boaties, not great. Strong wind warnings for the bay and offshore. Southerlies bumping up to 30 knots, a bit of swell building offshore too. So in Brisbane, a couple of showers lingering this evening and early morning, then easing. A few sunny breaks returning through the day, 15 to 22 degrees. Then looking further ahead, staying cool and partly cloudy on Saturday, 22 degrees, but the winds do start to ease. In Ipswich, 25 Saturday, up to 26 on Sunday as nights get a bit of a chill again, back out into single fingers. On the Gold Coast, 23 degrees on Sunday before the next southerly wind change roars through in the afternoon and evening, and staying pretty windy on Monday. And Sunshine Coasters, similar conditions for the start of the school holidays. Plenty of sunshine, but you just have to watch for a bit of wind on the beaches. Max, it's back to you.
Thanks, Tony. Now, before we go, here's a look at a special report we have for you tomorrow night.
Escaping the Southeast's expensive property market.
I had nowhere to go. What do I do?
We reveal the bargain retirement hotspots selling for a steal.
This is my forever home.
Plus, the expert advice you need before moving anywhere.
People don't know what they don't know.
On 7 News, 6 o'clock.
And that's all from us this Thursday. Thanks for your company. From all the team, have a good night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want. Download now.